Again, and before I open the meeting, I'm going to mention that we have revised the agenda, and we revised it so that we could basically hold open meeting or telephone conversation for those that could not travel in. So that's basically the only change from the revised agenda that we put out on February 6th. Okay.
I'd like to get a little, yeah, yes.
All right, so I am officially going to open the Regional Governance Board of the Southwest Vermont Regional Technical School District regular meeting for Monday, February 9th, 2015. And I want to welcome everybody who's here at the table and everybody out there for coming in. And our first order of business is public comments. And do we have any public comments? All right, there's no public here, so we'll move on right to committee reports. And Gloria, would you like to start with the Strategic Planning Committee report?
Yes, I would. Okay, I'm going to start now with the Strategic Planning Committee report.
Thank you.
Mike would like to have a Student of the Month who would receive a plaque and certificate for public recognition, and he would have lunch with a student and the student's family at Culinary Arts Program. And Ed suggested dedicating a wall for recognition plaques. The Sustainable Foods Program is running and using the MAU greenhouse. We have an agreement to work with Bennington Police Department on a summer program for 1 week this summer. We discussed and approved several forms for program evaluation. One of them was the teacher interview form, and another was career to technical program evaluation tool. Mike did a presentation on our cosmetology program. It's not cost effective, and students need more hours to fully prepare for cosmetology license. Not the fault of the curriculum or the instructors. It's a time problem. The committee recommends for board approval that the cosmetology program be consolidated with one instructor to run the program. And Mike might want to give more information before the board votes. So
he has that.
If you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, Mike is going to do that in the superintendent's report.
Oh, all right. So would we ask for the board to approve this now, or wait until he gives his report?
No, we'll wait till we get to the action items. It's actually listed there on the agenda.
All right.
Anything else from strategic planning?
No.
Okay, and
we had a very busy meeting.
All right, and you've set another meeting date already?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And it's in March, and I'll have to look it up.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't have it right handy.
No problem.
And I can look it up and then get back to you.
Okay, thank you, Gloria.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other committees that met between now and the last meeting? I don't believe there was.
Oh, Jim?
Well,
Jim?
Yes, Gloria.
I did find that the meeting will be on Monday, March 23rd at 2:30.
Thank you. Thank you. Ed,
the Education Committee didn't meet, but we had a discussion via email about the prospect of going to one instructor for cosmetology. And Jackie Kelly, I don't think she's with us.
Who's with us right now?
Can't hear her.
We can't hear
I'm
you.
here.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Jackie suggested that we try to work with local salons to see if they can place students for enough time to get the 200 hours. And John here suggested that we actually interview some of the students who failed to get their 1,500 hours, and maybe that'll give us some insight into what was happening, because I believe when this program was created, the detail of allowing them to get enough hours was worked out, and I don't know what went wrong, but it obviously has. And I don't have a breakdown of the number of students that accomplished the 1,500 hours and the number that didn't.
Okay, we'll continue with the conversation when we get to that. Your Ed Committee did meet and electronically and discussed us.
Yeah.
And the issues that you brought before us are the hours and the working with salons. So those are things that we'll take under advisement, and then when we get to that portion of the discussion. Okay. The other committees did not meet, except their policy was scheduled to meet.
Right, we were scheduled to meet today and we canceled it right at, 4 o'clock, 3:30, something along that line for the day, because no school decided that we'll reschedule it. So what we had to discuss and was gonna discuss was computer network and internet acceptable use, which is on our agenda to do. And so we'll reschedule that for another date and try to get it in before the next meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. And apparently you're fairly close on that one as well as from that.
It's a close discussion in terms of trying to do a whole bunch of things, but we also want to make sure that we hear the same thing is going on in SVSU, and so I would like to try to make sure I understand what's going on with there too, so that we won't be too far apart. That's all.
Good, very good. Okay, Leon, when you get another meeting scheduled, you'll let us know.
Yeah,
then
Bruce is gonna.
He's gonna
try
do
to
that?
get- yeah.
Okay, and Sandy can get the word out to everybody. All right, thank you. Okay, there are no other committee reports, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. And we have the minutes in the Dropbox of the full board meeting for January 12th. Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ricky and it's seconded by Kevin. So, any discussion on the minutes at all for the last meeting? All right, seeing or hearing none, then all those in favor, please signify by raising your hands. All right, and we'll take a voice vote over. I can see Heidi, I can see Jackie, I can see Jessica, and your vote would be Gloria?
I have to abstain, I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, then one abstains. So we have 7, 8 in favor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in favor, and 1 abstain. Is that correct? 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep.
No, it's 9. It's 9 in favor and 1 abstain. Okay. You got that, Barb?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. We also have attached the minutes for the special meeting January 26th that we held, and that was to get our budget warned, if you remember. And
Yes.
any questions on those minutes? Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved. Second.
Moved by who? Kevin? I heard you say so
Okay.
moved.
Yeah, I think John did the second.
John seconded. All right. No discussion on those, then all in favor of accepting those as presented, please signify by raising your hands. Okay, and Gloria, you
And I say aye.
and you say aye. That's unanimous.
I got an extension, I wasn't there.
Oh, okay. So Leon is abstaining because he wasn't there.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's 8 in favor, 9 in favor, and 1 abstained, excuse me.
Do we need to make a note that there was a correction
Go ahead.
in the warning? There was a typo in it,
And
and
the warning,
Oh, yeah, we had the wrong.
we agreed to correct that. The year 2014 was put in one place, and it should have been 2015.
Yes.
That was
Right.
in the meeting minutes.
That
though.
was in the.
She
that-
reflected it, well, the change in the warning was it was actually 4 seats there's 4 seats open for 3 years, not 3 at 3 and 1 at
Why did
1.
some of us have to go down to the town hall?
That, because you needed to re-sign that.
Oh, okay.
For the date.
Yeah, basically for the date. Yeah, compression. All right. We're going to move on to the payroll warrants. Payroll number 15, 1030, 16, and 1031. Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Moved by Ricky,
Second.
seconded by John. Any discussion on the payroll warrants? All those in favor then please signify by raising your hand. And Gloria?
I'm in favor.
Okay, so that's unanimous.
Thank you.
And the vendor warrants 1032 and 1033, can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Moved by Ricky and seconded by John again. All right.
Actually, it was Leon.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was Leon. All right. And any discussion on these vendor warrants?
You're off the hook this week.
Yeah, I guess we
I
are.
didn't get to go through them in detail like I normally do.
Thank God.
If you have any questions, let me know.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand.
And I say aye.
That's unanimous then. All right.
Thank you.
Stephanie has some cash flow statements, revenues, and expenses in the Dropbox under Mulligan Documents.
Mulligan Docs.
Is there any questions or concerns on any of these? Anything that you want to add to that, Stephanie? No, it's all pretty much self-explanatory, all right?
Just accept them or just?
But no, we don't need to vote
Just
on
for your
those.
information.
That's information, yeah. Superintendent's report. We're going to start in with Mike then.
Good evening, everybody. For those that are attending electronically, can you see our screen? The computer screen?
Yep,
Great.
yeah.
So the presentation you'll be able to see remotely. I'll share the screen so you can see the documents that the rest of the board sees here tonight. My superintendent's report tonight is going to be just on 2 items. Number 1, the cosmetology program, which is the discussion we had earlier, and also talking about how we're enhancing our work-based learning, which is formerly known as co-op. Those are the 2 items I'll present tonight. So we'll start with cosmetology. This is I don't use watered down, but a cut down version of what was presented to the Strategic Planning Committee and Ed from this Ed Committee last week. It's just not every slide, it's just condensed a little bit so that to save on time. So one of the things that the Strategic Planning Committee has asked us to do is look at our programming and how we offer them, what we offer, what we don't offer, etc. So we started with cosmetology because it's one of the only programs that has 2 teachers, 1.75 actually. I consider it 2 teachers, and what we're offering for students. So a little history lesson for those that were on the board in '07 and for those that weren't. The class started in the 2nd semester of 2007, which was funded initially with state innovation funds, just like our Sustainable Foods program is in 2007. So I reviewed all the minutes of the board meeting, sorry about that, since 2007 forward. So looking back in January of '07, board member Frank Lamb and Leon Johnson inquired as to the sustainability of cosmetology and was told there'd be a 3-year review. I'm unable to find any such review of the current program structure. It certainly could have happened, but I can't find documentation of it anywhere. So further that, 2008, an additional instructor was hired and funded through a grant. And this was, again, with program innovation funds. It was hired for .75 at the time in 2008. Again, it's the only CDC program with 2 instructors at the time. So 2008 forward, the programs had a total of 5 different instructors, and Enrollment and FTE counts are hard to explain. I'll try and simplify it. This line up here shows total enrollment in the program over the years. Go away. The red line right here is what we're getting paid for FTE counts, and I can explain why that is. Cosmetology has a fair number of adult students in the program, whether it be year 1 or year 2 in its current structure. And students with diplomas, and Marie Pierre, you can jump in any time here if I misspeak. Adult students with diplomas have to pay tuition to the center, but they don't count towards our FTE counts at all. So they're generating no revenue from the state. And for simple math, a student pays between $5,000 and $6,000.
It's 40% of our announced tuition, which is roughly
56 something.
Right. So a student with a diploma pays about $5,600 to enroll in the program. 20% of which comes back to the center.
50% comes back to the center. 50% of the 40% comes back to, right.
All right.
So $2,300 will come back to the center.
So $2,300 is what we're getting for a student enrolled as an adult, versus a full-time student for a high school student, which is how much? $18,000. So that's why that line is so disparaging. Is there are a fair number of students, but we're not really getting any money for them, to put it mildly or bluntly. But what I want to focus on is this program recommendation is not about enrollment, it's not about numbers, it's about student outcomes and the financial feasibility of cosmetology. That's what it's really focused on. And I don't want to focus on 20 students in one year, 18 in the other. That's not the focus of what this is about. So the current structure and outcomes of cosmetology. CDC Cosmetology is not a licensing program, and I have to be honest with you, I thought that it was. When students leave, when students leave this program, they are not licensed. They need to go sit for the exam. So currently, students have to complete 1,500 hours to be able to sit for the exam. So an analysis of that, based on scheduling, looks like this: Year 1 students average 465 hours in a year, and that's missing no time. That's never being absent, never being late, none of that. And we know that it's just not accurate. Students miss time. Year 2 students average 840 hours, again, missing no time. So you're a high school student or an adult student, you spent 2 years in the program, and you're automatically at least 200 hours short without missing anything. So that 200 hours has to be made up in the 3rd year, which involves this tuition that costs the adults so much money to enroll. Because they have their diploma now it costs them thousands of dollars to enroll in a course to finish their hours. And what's happening is the time is being spent prepping for a single licensing exam, just that cosmetology license, not preparing for other industry recognized credentials. We'll talk about what those are next. So all the time is spent trying to get ready to sit for that exam, which not all students sit for the exam. I can't give you an exact number. It's about half, though, that actually sit for the licensing exam at the end of their really 2.5 or so years. So we don't feel that it's set up for success, for student success, and that's what I am most worried about. So current challenges, it's my belief the program is not sustainable long term in its current state as it's currently structured. It's difficult to enroll students due to the lengthy daily requirements. A student has to take up almost 4 hours of their day to be in cosmetology, and that just doesn't work from a scheduling standpoint. Meg, I know that you're on the line. Could you speak to that briefly about the scheduling component of cosmetology?
Yeah, I mean, the first year of the program really takes up half of the student schedule year-round. And, you know, you're looking at primarily junior students who are still working on their 3rd math, their 3rd science, their 3rd social studies. It's difficult for them to get all of the core requirements in. They usually have to bump a class to senior year in order to, to try and finish all of their requirements. And that's provided that they've passed everything along the way and or did not lose credit due to absences. So, just in my experience as a school counselor, that was a tough sell to, to students who might be struggling, may need to make up a course. They just couldn't do it. And then senior year, it takes up even more time. It takes up 75% of their schedule. So again, if it's a student who, has attendance issues or, didn't pass classes or wants to take a college course, wants to engage in dual enrollment, and physically go and take a college course, which a lot of students should be encouraged to do, you almost have to choose as a student. It is a nightmare as far as talking from a scheduling point of view. I can tell you multiple stories about working with students and the student trying to choose between cosmetology or taking chemistry and, a third or a fourth math. But the other aspect is the scheduling part, which, I don't know, as a parent, I'm not sure it would be difficult for me to choose to have my son or daughter have 75% of their schedule taken up with a program, no matter what the program is.
Thanks, Meg. So, continuing on, what we're finding is students aren't leaving the program with industry-recognized credentials. And this is, I want to be clear, Gloria touched on it, this is no fault of the instructor, this is nothing about that. This is just the program structure. They're focusing on that exam at the end that they might take or not. And the state wants us to have students leave with IRCs, and students should be leaving with credentials to go be employed after high school. The other challenge is the current short block that we're offering, Intro to Cosmetology, was never approved to run by the state. I can't answer why that is to anyone here. I can't answer why, it's just not. And it doesn't mean that we can't offer it, it just means we don't generate any revenue for it. They don't count towards our FTE counts. And that has a big impact.
Can I ask a question
Jim.
here? If it's not approved by the state, then it very well could be, though, right?
Yes, we're going to get it approved by the state. Yes.
Because if we do make some changes, the short block's liable to pick up in popularity, just for those students that are caught up in scheduling issues, et cetera, but still want to have a taste of it. So I would encourage that we get down that road and follow through with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Similar question, if it wasn't approved by the state, does that mean students didn't get a credit for it?
No, students did receive credit for it. It just strictly, when it's not approved by the state, it doesn't generate FTEs. That's
we didn't get paid
just what
for
it boils down to.
Right.
Yeah. Can the folks at home still see our screen? We're kind of getting an error notice here.
The group went away.
All right, we're going to reestablish. Give us just a second.
I thought it was just me.
How's that?
Here you are.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a work network. All right. Thank you. So, any more questions on the short block? It basically boils down to FTE counts and revenue. That's all. The other current challenge is that the two-instructor model is extremely costly for the program, and considering the fact that it doesn't generate a lot of FTEs because of the adult population, because the short block isn't approved, and even if the short block is approved and we're going to submit that, it still doesn't generate that much FTEs. And most importantly, students can't complete the hours that's expected of them in the current structure. So some proposed changes that we have is that the program becomes a one-instructor program. The daily schedule is aligned to fit current scheduling practices, which is essentially 2-hour blocks of time. That hasn't been determined yet if it'll be 2 hours or an hour and a half one semester and 2 the next. That's all still to be determined. The intro class would be submitted to the state approval to generate FTEs. And the focus really shifts in the program from licensing to earning IRCs and portable credentials that students can take with them and be employed. And that's the most important part of this change. And so what are the student outcomes and benefits? And that's what's most important to me. Students will leave, in this new design, if we do this, students will leave with these credentials. And you can see them on the screen: color design, hair design, sculpture, perm design, barbicide certification, etc. These are real credentials they can take with them and go be employed. So students also can port 500 of their earned hours to other licensed cosmetology schools. So in this new model, students will complete somewhere between 700 and 800 hours, depending on how it ends up being scheduled. They can take 500 of those hours and take them to any other licensed school in the tri-state area if they want to finish their 1,500 hours. On top of that, what we're proposing I see it as a real benefit to the students. The adult students is we can roll these hours into the evening program, into adult education. And if students want to finish those 1,500 hours, they can do it through adult education at a much reduced cost to the student versus the $5,000-$6,000 they pay now.
I think it's a great plan.
And thank you. And on top of this, what we've also learned through this process, and we've spent a lot of time now analyzing if this is the right thing to do. And once students get their 500 hours, they can also then go do a 24-month internship at salons to earn their license as well. So there's multiple benefits to this. You know, I've spoken to the instructors of the program. The senior instructor believes that this will work. I've taken the time to talk to every technical center in the state that has a cosmetology program, including instructor models that have 3 instructors, 2 and 1. The majority have 1 instructor. In reviewing the minutes of the board meetings from 2007 and 8, it was recommended to the board that this model that we have now was based off of Essex Tech Center. And we're not Essex. They're a full-day program. They're essentially a comprehensive high school that offers all their academics. It works for them, and it just doesn't work for us. It's at the end of the day. So what are the center benefits from this? I mean, there's student benefits and there's also center benefits. And that's substantially reduced cost, greater flexibility in scheduling for students, increased enrollment overall. It will take some time to shake out. I have to be right up front with you on that. You know, it's going to take time for it to catch up. Clarified reporting, and what I mean in that is this reporting to the state of adults with diplomas, adults without diplomas, students who pay tuition, those who pay tuition, those we get reimbursed for, those we don't. It's kind of crazy, and then increased revenue, and that's getting, because there's going to be more enrollment, because the short block will be approved. You're only going to be paying for 1 instructor, not 2. It seems like to me it makes sense. It makes total sense to do this, and for all the reasons that are here. And what I like most is that the kids, the students benefit from it. Not only the high school students, but then the adult students with the reduced tuition for themselves. So we feel that it's really a win-win. A lot of effort's gone into looking at this and will it work or not. And I've had very frank discussions with the senior instructor. And I said, if you think this is not going to work, tell me. Are we missing something? And the answer is no. Every tech center I talk to that offers a 1 instructor model does this. They offer the certifications that students can then take with them to be employed in the field. And that's, at the end of the day, what this is about. So the conclusion, consolidating cosmetology, number 1, makes sense for a lot of reasons. It ensures long-term success of the program. The most important thing, enhances student outcomes, and it decreases operating costs to the center. And that's a watered-down version of the presentation done to the Strategic Planning Committee and Ed Committee. I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone has, or things that maybe we haven't thought about that you want to chime in about or ask questions.
I'd like to know when it would take.
Can you repeat that, Jackie?
Sure. When would it start?
This would not start until next school year. So we couldn't make a change now because students are already scheduled, the second semester's already in place. I mean, it would be the end of the school year. We'd start up in the fall with this new model. And part of the reason for bringing it to the board kind of so early, I mean, in February, is if we're going to make this change, the sending schools have to know if the schedule will change, so because we're starting the enrollment process now. So so students who may want to enroll in cosmetology in its current structure, they may just not be able to if we leave it the way it is. And scheduling is starting very, very soon. So,
Would students be allowed to take a class at night?
Yes,
You know, in other words, would they be allowed to double up?
absolutely. And, you know, again, one of the reasons why we were hoping for a decision tonight is so that we can start working with the instructor and maybe identify as well work-based placement for the students so that we can combine adult ed, work-based learning, and the day programs to benefit our students, you know, in a way that we are currently not doing it. And when we say evening classes, we can actually start earlier. We can start at 3 o'clock once the school day is over for the students.
right.
So-
They will have to pay for the classes after 3 o'clock though, correct?
That is correct, yeah, but after that, when they become part of adult ed, and because of the way the structure is in place right now, it would be a lot more affordable for the students than
Yeah.
it currently
They'll
is.
still have to, adult students with diplomas will still have to pay,
Right.
but they don't have to pay our
40%.
the weird calculation of our announced tuition rate, and it's just it's the fee that Marie Pierre will be able to set through adult education, and we don't know what that is yet, but it's going to be a lot less than
Yes.
than what they pay now.
So the question I'm thinking about the 2-hour slots and said, how real is that in being able to accomplish what you need to accomplish in the class? I thought that was a concern when we first got started, was being able to get in the class to ramp up and ramp down and be able to do that in a short period of time.
Yeah. Well, this.
And achieve something. So
Right.
That's what my only question is.
Yep, that's good. Great question, Leon. This model of proposed model of cosmetology will follow the exact same structure of every program in the center. Right now, every program operates on either 90 minutes one semester and 150 the other, or an average of 2 hours a day all year. It's what fits with Mount Anthony scheduling, and it's what all of our classes run on, except cosmetology. They're the only ones that run on this long, super long blocks of time, these 4-hour blocks.
How does it fit with Arlington and other sending schools that are in the district?
The current structure or the proposed
The
structure?
proposed structure.
All I can tell you is much better than the current structure, because a student have to spend their entire day here from Arlington or Manchester, and with this model, they would also be able to come like our other programs and spend the hour and a half or 2 hours and return. You know, Leon, I think in an ideal world, we'd love to have the 4-hour idea is great, but it just doesn't fit with scheduling, and that's part of the problem. It doesn't work well.
Well, I mean, the task is being able to complete the task. What effect that's going to have on the program? We're talking about 2 hours, and you mentioned some certifications and things up there. Are those modified versions of what you're going to be able to? That you compared to what we're doing now, that we'll be able to accomplish those within the 2-hour slot. That's what I'm trying to make sure we.
Yes, I mean, right now, students aren't getting any of those certifications at all with the 4-hour slot. They're only really, I feel like, cranking out hours to try to get to that 1,500 hour zone. So all of our programs offer IRCs or credentials that they do accomplish in that 2 hours. Some of those certifications are maybe only 10-hour certifications. Some could be 30-hour certs, and they will be embedded into the program.
Okay.
Yep, it's a great question.
Are you looking for a motion to do this?
We're gonna take it up under action items, yeah. But I wanted to get his entire presentation on this.
Other questions I'll be happy to answer of the board of the proposed changes or the current structure.
Okay.
All right, I guess that's
No more
I have a
questions.
question.
okay. Go ahead.
This is Jessica. I would like to know what kind of curriculum the senior instructor is going to have to build as soon as possible. She's going to be completely renovating this curriculum to be a one-person show. So is this enough time for the senior instructor to do that?
We believe that it is, and that's why we're starting with it now. And it's actually, they use a curriculum currently called Milady. That's their current curriculum. We're going to be switching to something called Pivot Point. And that's what's in the, if I go back to the screen here, I'm going to lose you for a second, but back to these certifications, the PP2D CD, that stands for Pivot Point, and that's another licensing company basically, or curriculum company that we're going to be switching to. It's what the instructor would prefer to use, but again, doesn't work with the current structure. They're stuck with this Milady to get the hours. So it's going to certainly be a task, Jessica, for the instructor to realign this and change it, but we feel making a move on it sooner rather than later gives the instructor time to rebuild that curriculum and look at what does my day look like now in a 2-hour block versus a 4-hour block, and how does that work with instruction? So I feel confident that can happen, but it is going to be a lot of work.
Okay, thank you.
I would think if other technical centers are using this model, that we could borrow their curriculums and
Right.
adapt them for our time slots.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like the curriculum's already written, it's
Sorry,
just a
yeah.
matter of changing from one company essentially.
Changing
to another.
companies,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, yeah. So it will be the instructor having to learn a different curriculum. I mean, it's going to be similar, but
Right.
with certifications attached to it rather than.
Are these books as expensive as the Milady books are?
Probably. All those packages are fairly expensive, but I don't have prices on that.
I don't either, but I know they
They're pricey.
cost a fortune.
Okay, Mike, you also want to do a quick overview of the co-op program.
Yes. So I also have a presentation which won't be as involved as cosmetology, but another program that we have been looking at to, I like to use the word enhancing programs, because I think saying changing a program means that it's bad, and that's not always the case. And we need to enhance our programs, and that's what we're doing with cosmetology, and that's what we're also doing with work-based learning, which most people know as co-op, but the state is really abandoning that language of co-op and using work-based learning, and it makes a lot of sense. It's work-based learning for students, and work-based learning can take place in many models. And what I say is that we have to have many models available. One model does not fit every student in the center, or any center for that matter. So we are looking at multiple ways that students can be out and getting work-based learning experience, and that's going to be different for different programs, and that's what I want to present to you tonight on how we're enhancing this. And I want to be right up front. This is an ongoing process. This is not done. This is in progress, and we're making great progress with it. So I have this. If you can see the screen here, I like this this street sign, the Career Development Center Work-Based Learning. It's our Road to Success, as I call it, our Vermont road sign. So again, I've pared this down from the original presentation that was done to the instructor and with administration to kind of give you the outline of it tonight and what we're doing. So some of the things, we've kind of taken a holistic approach at looking at work-based learning and what's working really well, what isn't working well, and what can we enhance, because we have some very good work-based learning already going on in this center, and I'm going to point to two programs that are very good: human services and medical professions. And all day long I'll tell you those are excellent work-based learning experiences, but we have more programs than that. We have 17 or 18 programs, depending on how you want to count. So all of our programs need to be involved in work-based learning, and they're not currently, but most are going to be this semester, and I'll preview that for you shortly. So one of the ideas, it's not an idea, it's what we're going to be doing, it's floating out there, is called workplace exploration. And that's formerly known as job shadowing and rotation. Currently, medical professions and human services do this, and they do it very well. It's a well-oiled machine. And one of the questions I have is, why aren't we doing this with all of our programs, and how can we offer it to them? So right now, only Year 2 students are involved in work-based learning of any type. So what we want to do is offer it to Year 1 students as well. And that looks different. And what we look at is year one as exploration. And I hate to use the word field trips, but that's what, for lack of a better term, field trips. And what I say is, Ed, question?
When you say year one students, you're talking about the first year of a
First year
two-year
student,
program.
yes, yep. At our strategic planning meeting, Heidi, I put you on the spot for a second. I said, I have questions, and I said, ask them, because we speak this language all day long, and we forget other people don't. So what we want to do is identify areas of uniqueness and overlap. So an example, a law enforcement student could overlap with medical professions and students while learning about hospital security, and with pre-law students while learning about arrest procedures. So, for example, law enforcement, pre-law, medical professions could all take place on a field trip, for lack of a better term, and do job shadowing at local businesses and businesses in the county. It is
Get those.
It is not we're not changing anything we're doing in work-based learning, we're adding to it, and this is what we're adding. So this is a piece to it, to get more students involved. Because what we found out is year two students, the ones we're really targeting for real work-based learning experiences, don't even know about it's available to them. They don't know what careers are available to them. Students think law enforcement, for example, that's just patrol. There are so many divisions of law enforcement, from probation and parole to dispatch to corrections, you name it. And that's true in every one of our programs. Automotive. Sure, there's the automotive tech. There's also the service rep. There are service writers. There are folks who work in part stores. There's all sorts of different careers that we're not currently exploring and that we need to explore and that we're going to. The second piece of this is what we've affectionately termed 222. And this is in its draft form. What 222 stands for is students in their second year, in their second semester, twice a week. Well, what does that mean? So students that are in their second year of their program, in their second semester, go out twice a week from their programs and spend time in the workplace. That could be, let me back up for a minute. And why second semester, second year? Students at that time have completed almost 90% of their competencies, and they can afford to be out of the program for 2 days. Now, does that work for every program? No, and I don't pretend that it does. But it's another option for students to enroll. So what we've set forth for this coming semester that we're in now, and this doesn't sound like a lot, but it is to start with, one student from each of our 17 programs will be out second semester in a work-based learning experience. That's just this semester's goal, one student. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is, because right now we don't have that. We got to start somewhere. So student selection has already begun by that, back in November. Students are identified where they're going to be placed now, and one-on-one conversations with students have started about this semester. We're a little behind schedule, but that happens with goals. You know, we've had snow delays and closings and you name it. Things get delayed. Something else that we've done that has never been done here before, and that I can find, again, is we consider co-op or work-based learning a program. And there was no program advisory committee for it. And we've established one now for it with members of the community. And it's a pretty extensive list of folks. And I just want to tell you some of the folks that are now on this work-based learning advisory committee, which was supposed to meet last week, and we had a snow day. Folks from Abacus, we have folks from the town of Bennington on there, from the SVMC, the hospital, the Department of Labor, Green Mountain Oasis, the SVSU, the list goes on. It is a healthy list of people who represent our community in business, large business, small business, private and public, to give us direction of what are we missing, what can we do as a school to help you as the employer, and vice versa. And it's been a very honest and open conversation, I think, about businesses' experience with previous work-based learning, what they'd like to see changed, what they find great, what they find not so helpful. And so it's an ongoing process, and we are happy that we're moving forward with it. So on top of this, what we're using to guide our goals is the state of Vermont has outlined what they consider the gold standards for work-based learning programs. And this is what we are using to help guide us with these. And some of these standards we already meet, and some we don't. And that's okay, and we're working on it. So standard 1 is that every school make work-based learning available as part of a program of studies leading to college and career readiness. That's what we're doing. We're making it available to students. Not every student. Not every student's appropriate to be in the workplace, and I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. But I have to believe that at least one from every program is appropriate to be in the workplace. I want more than that. Standard 2, a qualified...
If there's more than...
Go ahead, Gloria.
If there's more than one, can more than one from a program participate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the one right now is our initial goal for this coming semester. I would hope to have more than that going forward.
Yes, I would too.
Standard 2 is that a qualified professional facilitate work-based learning activities, and you have that in place. You have a work-based learning coordinator currently. That is .5. We've clearly defined their job descriptions and job duties for them. Here, the employers develop Standard 3. Employers develop the future workforce through work-based learning activities. And we've now engaged the employment community. Not everybody, we can't get them all, but a good representation to guide us on what does it mean to have work-based learning activities and internships and co-op placements. And so we've done that. Standard 4, work-based learning activities are coordinated as a continuum of career development. We're working on that. That's offered through our programs. And that's currently what we call, repair, I'm drawing a blank, our, it's the name of our class right now in co-op.
She is too, I can tell by the
Yeah, I'm
expression.
trying to read your mind, it's not working.
What's the name of the short block, or the class right now? See, it's a quiz.
Yes, that one.
That
yes.
one.
That one.
All right, it'll come to me in a few minutes. But that's career development activities like resume writing and working on soft skills and getting ready to be a productive employee in society. It'll come to me. Standard 5, that this is important. Work-based learning activities are integrated with academic standards, and those are long-term activities that help towards graduation requirements and earning credit. One of the things that we're working with right now is CCV offers a dual enrollment option for co-op. It's new, work-based learning. It's not been implemented yet, but we're looking at that as a way to expand students' college credits so they can earn while they're still here in high school. Standard 7 talks about 21st century workplace skills, which we all need. There's 21st century skill sets designed by the state that we are looking at for students to be employable with the skills that they need. And students often think they have the skills they need when it comes to technology, and in fact they always don't. They may be very good with their phone or their tablet, but applying it is a different story. Standard 8, work-based learning activities are in compliance with legal health and safety regulations. We're always reviewing that. I wouldn't tell you that we're not in compliance. We are. That's what we employ a work-based learning coordinator for. They are up on what the Department of Labor's criteria are for employment. That's their area of expertise. It's not mine. It's the work-based learning coordinators. So those are the gold standards that we're working off of to enhance our work-based learning experiences. It's not done. It's a work in progress. I think that we're making great strides in enhancing the work-based learning program. And one of the things that I would ask the board to consider is when I do reports on FTE counts, work-based learning is harder to count. We don't necessarily get FTE counts for students who are in work-based learning because they're already with us. They might have already maxed out on their minutes. So what I would like us to think about in the future is not just look at FTE counts for work-based learning, because it's not a true representation. We need to look at how many students are actually out in the workforce learning skills they need through our programs. And that's a different view. And do some of our current co-op students get credit, or excuse me, do we get FTE counts for them? Yeah, we do, but not all of them. If a student is with us for 240 minutes a day, well, that's all we get paid for. And so it's just a different way of looking at FTE counts, I think. It's been helpful for me to understand that and going forward. So I'll take questions on work-based learning. Anything you see here or things you don't understand or things that you want to see that you're not seeing.
Mike,
Yes.
how are we gonna handle the, getting them to the jobs and back? It seems to always be an issue,
It is an issue.
especially
And
the war you're talking about.
yeah, I mean, one of the questions is transportation. And do I think that we should provide transportation if we expect this to work for our students? I do. Do I think that should be the work-based learning coordinator? No. I don't think it should be that person driving a bus, or occasionally, yes, got to fill in, but not as a standing basis. And, you know, a lot of students have their own ride, but some don't. And I feel as a school that we should offer it to students if we expect this to be successful. But again, I don't think that that's the work-based learning coordinator's job to be driving the bus.
No, but I do think that's what we gotta keep in mind is, you know, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna have a van? Are we gonna hire a person full-time? And this sounds to me like it could turn into a full-time job as a bus driver.
It could. You know, back in the fall, we hired an additional paraprofessional to come on our staff because of program enrollments in particularly the building trades area for safety considerations. They're all required to have their bus licenses. And so, you know, I think that we can handle the capacity initially, but it's a good point, Ricky. It may turn into, you know, we've got kids going every which way in this community, as they should be, and we need to look at how we deliver that. You know, we're not going to be there this semester, and I don't think we're going to be there the beginning of next year, but long term, we probably will be.
Mike, as a follow-on, is that transportation, is that reimbursable?
Stephanie, it is reimbursable.
That is
from the state.
reimbursable expenses.
Yes.
If we use a bus, right, if we paid to say have them transported in a taxi.
Right, if we're using the
something,
bus, if
it's not.
If we're using our fleet of
Right,
vehicles.
it's not, we can't give them gas cards. or
Right.
something. I mean, I don't know.
Because all those things have been explored. Because
Right.
other tech centers, for example, in the northern part of the state, and I hate to say Essex again, but Essex and Burlington, they have a great network of public transportation to send kids out on. We don't have that here. You know, so every center does something a little bit different, and some do gas cards, and some do vouchers, and some send kids on the express buses, and some in taxis, and we just don't have that infrastructure here to support that.
And currently, the way that the transportation assistance is set up by the state, they're essentially paying all our transportation costs, you know, in terms of what I'm submitting to them.
Okay.
Good.
So it doesn't really cost us much, if
That's
anything,
good.
to run transportation.
No, I mean, it comes in as a revenue.
Right, it comes in as
But, yeah,
revenue,
and we have, keep track of it as
Yeah.
an expense.
Yeah.
We do not have this as an action item for this evening, and that was purposely because we've got this budgeted for next year in our current proposed budget. Okay, so we're going to put this on the agenda for action items so that the board can vote on this at the March meeting. Now, I understand the March meeting is normally a reorganizational meeting, but there's no reason why we can't warn properly and do an action on, we'll know by then if the budget has passed and the position is funded. And we'll also have some opportunity to talk with some other people in the community about this as well. A little more time.
I think Leon had a question.
Well, I was
Yes.
gonna say, Rick mentioned exactly what one of the biggest issues was, making sure that the students or whoever it was able to get to their destination that they supposed to be there, because attendance was one of the biggest issues, and I think you named a whole bunch of people or groups in terms of that workforce
Yeah.
that won't be afraid to come out and talk about the issues that are occurring when we're trying to place students in the workplaces out here along that line, and what it is that they're looking for from the student is the things that we need to really bring out there and bring them to the class, because there was some big gaps between what it is that the employee was looking for when you walked in the door, whether you fitted in or not,
Right.
versus what our expectations were when when we were supplying students, and then some of them didn't show up, they came, 1 day, 2 days, and so forth along the line.
And Leon,
I
that's
won't take that.
that's the feedback we're getting from developing this work-based learning advisory group, is that we're hearing these things that some are hard to hear.
Yeah.
And some are success stories. It's but sometimes we don't see the challenges that we have without having outside input.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That group, that you mentioned, is the real one that's going to say, look, whether you want to hear this or not, this is a fact. Now, well, I'm going to put this on paper or not, you probably won't get it on paper. But I'm going to tell you right now that this is what's real, in terms of that. And so somehow we're going to have to try to make some adjustments along that line to make those things that are undocumented scenarios in terms of why they're not accepting students from us are and how to enhance the students coming to them based on what their belief is, what they need to accomplish that, so that we can supply those students to them. So,
Thanks, Dan. Unless there's any other questions, that concludes my superintendent's report.
Heidi's got her hand up. I see her.
Heidi.
I want to make sure I understood you correctly. Were you saying that the work-based students, those minutes don't count toward the FTEs?
Some do and some don't. It depends on how much time they currently spend with us. So if they cap out at 240 minutes, if they're enrolling in work-based learning, we're not getting FTE counts for them. It's just a state formula. And not all students cap out at 240. Some are only at 150 or 200, so we do get some reimbursement, partial reimbursement for some of them.
We also get state salary assistance for.
And Stephanie's reminding, we also do get state salary assistance for the position of work-based learning coordinator. Stephanie, what average percentage is that?
It's 50% of the average salary and benefits, but currently it's calculated on the prior year's salary and benefits.
Do you hear that, Heidi?
No.
Sorry, we currently receive the 50% of the state average salary and benefits for the work-based learning, and it's calculated off of the prior year. So the money that we've received this year for that reimbursement is based on last year's salaries. So next year we will receive it at a 50% rate if we continue with her at 50% for the entire year.
It's also a required position.
Correct.
Under
Yeah.
law, so
It is.
we can't avoid it even if.
You're talking about the coordinator for the program.
Yes.
Right.
Right. That concludes my report, Jim.
Okay. Very good report, in-depth on both subjects, and I appreciate that, Mike, the time and energy you put into that. You certainly have enlightening us on two issues. I also want to thank the Strategic Planning Committee and the work they're working, their goals, et cetera, that they're going for here. It's going to be very helpful if we tackle programs in this manner that we're looking at right now, and I see a good evaluation process going on with the way it's happening. I appreciate that. As far as the chair's report, I've got a few things I want to report on. Just a quick follow-up with the workforce situation. We are meeting next week, the 24th that is, and the week after next, with a group called the Workforce Education Working Group for BCIC and the Bennington Economic Development Partners. And that group is coming in because they're interested in what we're working on here and what this is about. And they should have some ideas, as Leon has mentioned, and some input that we could get from them. So that's going to take place on the 24th. We're going to have a luncheon with those people, with the executive committee here at the center. We also are planning a meeting with the town of Bennington, the Bennington Selectmen. That meeting is going to take place Wednesday, February 11th, 8 a.m. at the town office. The purpose of that is, once again this year, we're going to do a budget presentation in a joint forum with the other schools, Bennington schools, the Mount Anthony School ourselves and the town. So we do a presentation, a joint presentation to the public. It's aired on CAT TV, gives the public a better idea of what we're working on as far as our budgets and our expenditures go for. And then lastly, Mike and I attended last Wednesday a training session, a required training session for school board chairs. The new Act 153 law requires it on an annual basis now we attend training. We did go to Montpelier and we attended a very heavily attended meeting with the School Boards Association, the Superintendent's Association, and they had quite an agenda. They brought in the entire education committee from the legislature to have lunch with us, and they split out the committee members, and we got to sit with a representative from Rutland. He works in Kinney Motors, and he was able to brief us just that day. As a matter of fact, they had a presentation on what they're looking at in the legislature. The House Education Committee is addressing a bill, and it had just been released that day, so they brought us that bill and told us some highlights on that. They're definitely looking at education finance. They're looking at governance. Governance is a hot item that will be discussed back and forth in what they deem should happen within superintendent districts and supervisory unions. They're talking about tuition. They're talking about the small school grant and the ADM calculations. School district hiring and educational finance and special educational funding. They've got quite a task ahead of them. As you know, they're under a lot of pressure to come up with some alternatives that are going to give taxpayers relief on property taxes. So I think that we're going to see something that'll come out of this legislative session. They are working closer with the Senate so that they're both briefed as to what they're covering, and I had a good feeling that something will probably come out of this session with some changes as far as the educational funding in this state. They certainly are open to any input, and I encourage not only members of the board but the public in general to please contact your state representative with your concerns or questions. And many of us do have concerns about our local boards, our small schools, and those are all being addressed. And that's it for my report. Any questions from me? Okay? None. Good, then we're going to go right into then the action items. We have 3 of them on the agenda. The cosmetology reorganization that was presented earlier. All right, well, we're going to start with that. And I'm going to just quickly run through some of the things that Mike covered. All right, we talked about how adults do not generate FTEs in that program as regular students do. We talked about student outcomes. They're not as desirable. No licensing scheduling is very difficult. Requires most of the students' day in the current program. It was mentioned the short block generates no revenue, and completion of hours by students very difficult under the current program. The new model presented offers many more certificates. It's offering additional hours that can roll into the adult ed program so that completion of licensing can be obtained if need. And we're looking at internships with salons that could possibly take place. So the center can benefit here with cost savings. It feels as if there's greater flexibility, particularly in scheduling with students. And we're pretty optimistic that we will see increased enrollment if we go under the new plan. So I would like a motion from someone that we adopt the cosmetology reorganization plan as presented.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay,
That's
it
for
was,
the next
motion.
year. You want the state
I make the motion.
For to be started for the next year.
Yes, okay, so Gloria's gonna make the motion that we accept it and that it be in place for next year.
Second.
And it's gonna be seconded by Kevin. Any further discussion on the reorganization? I think we've covered it all. All those in favor then, please signify by raising your hands.
And I'll say aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous, Barb.
Thank you.
All right. We have a field trip, a DECA International DECA Conference in Orlando, Florida that's going to take place April 24th through the 29th. Our DECA always goes to this conference. Can I have a motion to accept that?
So moved. Second.
All right, I heard someone say so moved, and that was
Leon.
Leon said so, and Kevin seconded. Any questions on the DECA field trip? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hands.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. And we have the last one, the field trip for pre-law to Washington, D.C. Again, every year they do that. They get a lot out of that trip.
So moved.
Kevin has moved and Leon has seconded. Any discussion?
Going by train.
I think it's a good trip.
Can I just ask the same question we always ask? Are these being paid for by funds that they've raised themselves or by the school?
They're normally funded through, I think a lot of it is funded through the school stores and the programs, that we have fundraising abilities
I
with.
can answer this. The pre-law trip is funded in part by the small amount that's put on the local budget for sorry, I don't know which direction the local budget is funding a small portion of the trip, and the rest is, I think, contributed by the students
And fundraising,
for.
particularly
They
with
don't
the
have a
pre-law trip.
revenue stream in pre-law. And then in terms of the DECA trip, that is primarily funded between, the advisors are paid for out of Perkins, and then the rest is funded out of the profits of the school store.
Right.
It's a combination.
Just good to know.
Yep. Good.
Keep us all aware of it.
Any further questions on that? All those in favor of this field trip to Washington, then please signify by raising your hand. And
Aye.
that's unanimous as well, Barb.
So if they need
Thank you.
chaperones on any of them anytime, I'll volunteer for pay my own way.
Do we have any other business before the board this evening? Okay, we do have one other. We are losing a 10-year veteran to the board here who has decided that he's going to move on to possibly another board and share some of his time and talent with Mount Anthony. But we want to recognize Kevin to my left here for the 10 years of work he's done for the center and how valuable it's been for us to have you here, Kevin, and how much we appreciate it, the time and energy you put in for us. I think we have a little gift for him, don't we? That we've decided to give you so that you don't forget about us.
Oh, I won't forget.
And certainly if you get on to Mount Anthony, don't forget about us there either.
I was thinking maybe we ought to tar and
I
feather
want
him for
to,
desertion.
this is Gloria. I've worked with Kevin on a number of committees, and I really enjoyed working with him so much, and I will certainly miss him on the board.
Well,
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you, Gloria. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, a hat, too.
Yeah, you got a hat,
Thank
you
you.
got a golf shirt there.
There's also a customized pen in there for you from our manufacturing program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh,
Nice.
The basket, too?
No.
We do not have an executive session planned for this evening, so if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kevin and seconded by Ricky. That's probably your last motion on this.
Probably is.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by raising your
Aye.
hand. Thank you,
Aye.
everybody, for coming out this evening. It's unanimous, Barb. And thank you for joining us on that meeting, folks.
Thank you.
and thank you for allowing us to call in.